Okay, guys, today we're covering 8-7, which is solving quadratics by completing the square when the a value is 1. So we're going to do a couple of practice problems from factoring to help us to remember how to do this, okay? The beginning part. So if I'm looking at this problem right here, I'm wanting to factor it. So I'm going to do my product sum. Remember, this is the product, this is the sum, which is the B, this is the A times C. So this is going to be 16, and this is 8. So what two numbers multiply to equal 16, but add to equal 8? Those are 4. So this is going to be x plus 4 squared, but they're both the same. They're not different. Okay, so based on thinking about that, let's go here. So I have, this is 1, this is 2, that's going to be 1, 1. So this is going to be x plus 1 squared. Let's look at this one. So product sum, this is 81, this is 18. So this is -9 and -9. So therefore, this is x minus 9 squared. So this is a positive 25. This is a -10. So this is -5 and -5. So this is open parentheses, x minus 5 squared. All right, now that we know that we can kind of quickly find this right here, and remember that this is because this is actually x plus 1 times x plus 1 for this one, but I can write it as x plus 1 squared because we're going to want to use this form when we're doing this. Okay, so if I look at this problem right here, okay, here we go. So this is 4 and this is 4. So this is going to be 2 and 2. So I can rewrite this as x plus 2 squared equals 25. Well, remember that the square root is opposite. The square root of some number is the opposite of some number squared. Okay, so if this is squared, that means that I can take the square root of each side. So I'm now going to have x plus 2 equals positive -5. Okay, so we've factored the perfect square trinomial. Now we're solving. So we have to solve for both. So when I'm looking at this, I'm now going to subtract 2 from both sides, which gives me x equals -2 plus or minus 5. So that means I'm going to have to solve this twice. So I'm going to have x equals -2 plus 5, which means x equals 3. And I'm also going to have x equals -2 minus 5, which means x equals -7. So my answers are -7, 3. And you write these in order from least to greatest. Okay, all of these are similar to that. So this is my answer right here. I found my solutions. This is by just finding the square root when it's a perfect square trinomial. Now we're throwing in where we're going to actually create that perfect square trinomial. So here's where we throw the curveball in. Okay, when you do not have, so it's do not have a perfect square trinomial, you can create. This process is called completing the square. We're going to follow the steps here for this problem. So we rewrite it as x squared plus bx equals c. So that means we're going to move c to other side. Well, I can't just move it. I've got to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And that's going to give me x squared plus 8x, notice I'm leaving a blank, equals -7. Okay, so next step, so that was step 1. Step 2, take half of b, square it, then add to both sides, because remember we have to keep the equation balanced. If I don't, my ship sinks. Okay, so I've got half of 8. So I'm going to divide. So I have 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So I'm going to have, and then I have to square it. So this is step 2. I did half of 8. Now I have to square it, which equals 16. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides. So that's now going to give me, so now I factor the perfect square trinomial. So step 3. So this is going to become, because that's 16, this is going to be, oh, well, that's this example up here in the warm-up. So if you notice that, or you can do the product sum again. So I have 16 and 8. So this is 4 and 4. So I'm going to have x plus 4 squared equals 9. So that was step 3. Now, do this. Step 3 was to factor the perfect square trinomial. Step 4 is we now take the square root of both sides and solve. Okay, so I take the square root, and that's going to give me x plus 4 equals positive -9, which means I can take this where I would solve each one. So I might do, okay, so this, I'll keep this one as the -9, and then I'll make x plus 4 equals positive 9. Now I solve both, so I'm going to subtract 4, and I get x equals -13. Subtract 4, and I get x equals 5. Oh, silly me, what did I do? What's the square root of 9? It's not 9, it is 3. Be careful. That's a common mistake that's made, which I demonstrated quite well. So we have -3 minus 4, so that's going to be actually -7. 3 minus 4 is actually -1. We have -7, comma, -7 again. -1 is our solutions, which is where it crosses the x-axis. So you can actually take the original equation and punch it into the y equals and check the answers on the calculator to see if that's where it crosses the x-axis. But you have to, when it says solve by completing the square, you have to show the work. Okay. Let's do one more, and then we'll talk about when it comes out to not being pretty numbers. Okay. For this, let's look at, I'm trying to make sure that there's not one that's a little different. Let's look at 7. Okay. Yeah, that one's kind of a little weird because I've got the 18x over here. I've got to get it to where it's all on the same side and equal to 0. So I have to remember to get equal to 0. Or no, equal to the constant would be better. Yeah, might as well. That way you don't have to move it again. Get equal to constant, which is the number by itself. Okay, it's just the number. So that means I'm going to subtract 71 from both sides, and I'm going to also move the 18 at the same time. Because if you don't want to do it on both at the same time, that's up to you. So this cancels out, and this cancels out. So I now have x squared minus 18x equals negative 80. Okay. Next step, completing the square. So I have negative 18. So I have negative 18 divided by 2, which is negative 9. I have to take the square, I have to square it, which is 81. So I'm going to add 81 to both sides. And when I do that, this is going to become x minus 9 squared equals 1. Remember, 1 is a perfect square. So I can take the square root of each side, and now I end up with x minus 9 equals 1. X minus 9 equals negative 1, and I solve. So plus 9, x equals 10. Plus 9, x equals 8. So my solutions are 8, 10. Because remember, you write the solutions in descending order. Well, ascending order. This lower one is written first. All right, let's go to these weird looking problems now. Okay. We are, it says to simplify all irrational solutions. We're going to actually plug them in and get the decimal answer at this point. So you're going to round to the hundredths. Okay. So same process. We're just doing the same thing. It's just going to be when we're solving down here at the end, we're going to get decimal answers. So, okay, so I'm going to add 4. And I'm going to have x squared minus 2x leave space, equals 4. And now we complete the square. So I have negative 2 divided by 2 equals negative 1 squared equals 1. So I'm adding 1 to both sides. So this is going to become x minus 1 squared equals 5. Okay. So we have now the square root of each side. So I'm going to have x minus 1 equals the square root of 5. Do not round. So we round to the hundredths at the end. It is at the end that you round to the hundredth. Okay. Then I have x minus 1 equals negative square root of 5. We still have the 2. So I have x equals, because I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I can't add what's inside here. They're two different terms. So I have 1 plus the square root of 5. Add 1, and I have x equals 1 minus the square root of 5. I can punch this in exactly as it looks in the calculator. So, handy dandy calculator time. Go, turn it on. Second quit to get to the screen. I'm going to clear all this other stuff out. And now I'm punching in 1 plus, now I need the square root. Notice the square root symbol is in blue. So I'm going to hit second square root. And then what's underneath there? A 5. So I hit the 5. Enter. Notice it's got this weird long decimal. So we're rounding to the hundredths. So therefore this is 3.2. I look at the 6 to round the 3 correctly. 4. That's what the x equals here. So now all I'm doing is changing from a minus to a plus. So I can press second, enter, and it retypes it. And now I can just scroll back and change to not negative, but minus. Press enter, and I get that x equals negative 1.24. So my solutions are negative 1.24, comma 3.24. So the only thing different here is you've got to punch the last step into the calculator to get the square root part. with this, remember, you have to solve it down to where you're writing this part right here. You don't find out what the square root of 5 is and then plug it in. You don't round until after you get this and you punch this into the calculator. Okay, go ahead and finish the notes and then we'll work on the assignment. Have a great day. Bye.